everybody. So today's tutorial is going to be one of the most asked for, and it's something that I'm just starting to get into myself. So again, as I said with all my tutorials, I might not have the best way or the easiest way. I'm always looking for more input and more advice, but there are a couple of different ways to make wool pants. Wool longies, wool shorties, and wool soakers. There is the easiest, cheapest way, in my opinion, is to go to the Salvation Army and pick up some wool sweaters. Types of wool you're looking for are merino wool, lamb's wool, new wool, cashmere, and occasionally you can find blends of these things together. I just picked up one that had lamb's wool, cashmere, and angora, which is rabbit hair. As long as the wool content is 80% or higher, that is something you're going to be able to use to make wool longies, wool shorties, or a soaker. I'm going to show you a couple of the sweaters that I've recently picked up at the Salvation Army. They ranged from $1 to about $4 a piece, depending on the size of them, what they were made of, and how they ticket them in the store. Most of them are women's sweaters, but a couple of them are men's. This one is a lamb's wool angora blend that I was telling you about. It's this beautiful creamy white. It's very soft. This one has short sleeves or quarter sleeves. These I would use because my son is 15 months old and really tall. He wears a 2T, 3T. I'm going to make shorties out of these because the sleeve is not long enough to be pants on him. All of these sweaters I have felted. Felted is a process of washing the wool in really hot water a couple of times and then drying them on hot or high heat in your dryer. By felting them, you're shrinking the fibers down and making the sweaters much smaller. The material gets really tight. This is almost bulletproofing it in a way. All of these sweaters have been felted. So what you're seeing, this fit me big. See if you can see it. This fit me really big when I bought it. This is a women's extra large. It would be lucky to fit my 5-year-old now. So when you're going to the thrift store and you're looking for these sweaters, make sure you try to find the biggest size possible. I'm not saying that you cannot find a small or a medium in a women's sweater and use that to make something. There's just going to be a little bit more of an involved process when it comes to making your longies or your shorties or your soaker, because they're going to shrink down so small. You're probably going to have to use a little bit of a different way to make your soakers rather than the way that I'm going to show you in this tutorial. So a couple more sweaters that I picked up. This one's a little bit different than the last one. This is a men's 100% merino. Now, after this one's been felted, it didn't shrink down very much. Ooh. And the sleeves on it are still really long. I like the sweaters that have this kind of ribbing on the cuff like this. That's where your child's ankle is going to end up. If you cut it right, then I can make this so that it's way too big for him lengthwise. And then I can use this cuff kind of stretchy part to fold it up on him so that I can get more than one season out of it. If I fold this twice, he can wear it this year. Next year I can fold it down one, so on and so forth. You're just going to get a little bit longer of a wear on it. Also, my son and my daughter, I know it sounds crazy, weigh a little bit different of amount, but my daughter can wear my son's pants. She's 5 years old, and she is a skinny mini girl, but her legs go on for days. So by doing that, by getting a sweater that has a really long sleeve like this and making the same waist measurements, because she can fit into his stuff, I can use these wool pants for both of them. I can put these on her full extended, or I can put them on him and roll them up. Another type you can look for, this is a beautiful sweater. This one has a really tight knit on it. It's very soft. It almost has like a little decorative pattern. My daughter loves this one. This one was, I believe, a J. Crew. Oh no, this one was Gap. It is an extra large. Like I said, you want to try to find the biggest size possible. This was huge on me when I picked it up at the store. It would fit me like a smaller medium now. That's how much it shrank down. This one was made from 100% lamb's wool, I think. Sorry, 95% lamb's wool, 5% cashmere. This is a great blend. This one is so soft and it's really beautiful. The ribbing on it is very nice. This one is 100% cashmere. This by far is the softest one of all the sweaters that I picked up. It's this beautiful kind of forest greeny color. Again, it has really nice long sleeves with that kind of stretchy part that goes around the wrist. Again, that will be at your child's ankle. This one's a little bit thicker. It did not stay as soft as it was in the store, but I love how like it really felted, really matted style, really thick. I don't know if I would use this just for legs, but I think that this really thick part of the material of the sweater would be great for the butt portion, for the around the crotch portion, if you're going to do the Katrina soaker with longies add-on. I'm not going to show you how to do that one in this tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you the easiest way to make a pair of wool longies. The Katrina requires a little bit more sewing, and that's for someone who kind of knows a little bit more about their machine, is ready to take on the next step of making a wool soaker. This one, I would definitely be using a Katrina pattern for, because I like how thick this is, and I would want to use exclusively this with maybe a different sweater for the legs. This was my favorite one I picked up at the thrift store the other day. I just love the print. It's so cute. It's like this kind of minty, sagey green with these tiny little white heart dots in them. This sweater was a large. As you can see, it is tiny. The sleeves shrank down, everything kind of shrank down. Again, I look for the ones that have this kind of like crimping on the end. Alright, so now I want to get into what you're going to do when you're going to make your longies. There are two ways, as I said, that I know of in how to make a pair of wool longies or wool shorties. Depending on how much the sleeves shrank down, you can literally, easiest way, right here at the seam, cut the sleeves off. Cut this whole sleeve off. And then go to the other one, cut the whole sleeve off. And what you're going to be left with, I have a different set, are these two arms that look kind of funky like this. This is another sweater I picked up at the store that day. This one did not have the stretchy kind of wrist, but I think it's going to make a good one anyway. This one also felted up really thick. I used the body of this sweater to follow the Katrina style, and I made a pair of wool longies for my daughter out of them that I'll show you at the end of this. So you have these two arms. What you're going to do after you cut them out, depending on how fitted you want them kind of around the crotch, you can take an old pair of pants that fit your child really well, something that's knit, and lay it on top of the arms. So you're going to take the arms, lay one on top of the other like this. See if you can see what I'm doing. And then take the pair of pants and lay it on top of them. And then measure the rise. So once you have those on top of each other and they're lined up, you can take another pair of children's pants that fit your child really well and line them up from end to end. And that will give you an idea of where you can cut this fabric off. Can you see what I'm doing? That's where you can cut. This pair of sleeves shrank down so much that there's a very minimal amount that I would have to cut off. And like I said, I like to make mine a little bit bigger so that my child has room to grow in them and I can get a little bit more use out of them. So for this pair, I am not going to cut that tiny little bit of runoff. Instead, I'm going to go ahead and leave it their full length so that I can get as much use out of them as possible. The second step, after you've cut them and you have the two pieces ready to go, is to turn one of them inside out. If you can see, this one is kind of serged. So you can see right here, this one is inside out. That's the part that you want to go against your baby's skin and not the part you want everybody to see. This is what right side out looks like. It's a little bit softer. So what you're going to do is you're going to want the correct sides to meet each other. So I'm going to take the one that's wrong side out, and I'm going to stuff the one that's right side out inside of it, trying to line up the seams as much as possible. If your sweater only has one seam, try to line the two of them up towards the back of the leg. This one has two seams, so I'm going to do my best to line them up. This is a seam, this is a seam. I'm going to line those up, kind of smush it out. This is a seam, and this is a seam. I'm going to line those two up. So what you're going to be left with is kind of a tube sock looking thing with a wrong side out on the outside, and when you peek in the hole, it's going to be two right sides together. Can you see that? Okay. The next step will be to sew. This area here is going to become the crotch of the pants. So if you have a serger, that's probably best, or you can use a really good zigzag stitch on your sewing machine. But you're going to sew this area here up, and I'm going to show you how to do that next. Okay, so this is another sweater that I'm going to use to show you how to do these longies. It's the same concept. I had the two arms that I had put together, correct sides facing each other, wrong side, see the seam on the outside, and then with the loop I stitched the crotch. Made the two pieces one piece. All the way from that top corner I used a zigzag stitch and stitched all the way down into the V and then all the way back up. Once that was done, you can then open the hole where you see the two correct sides and pull the other leg out like this. And then, guess what? Voila! You have a pair of wool pants. The two arms are stitched together at the crotch, creating a pair of pants. It's really as simple as that. You can now make a waistband by getting another piece of fabric and attaching it here on the top. You can fold this top portion over and hem it into a waistband. If you're going to do the fold over technique, make sure to take into account the size of your child's diaper and being able to fit it in here. You're going to want this rise area here to completely come up over the edge of the diaper. So adding another piece might be the better bet. If you do add another piece, you can use a stretchier style material, which will allow it to be tighter around the baby's waist, or you can add a drawstring, which I've done on a pair of my daughter's pants, because I use this sweater for the waistband and it's not very stretchy and it does kind of fall over her butt, and then she could have some wicking up her back, which you don't want. So if you have a really long sweater that when it shrank up gave you a really good sleeve, okay, you can make a simple, easy, sewing in less than 5 minutes wool longie, just like this, by just sewing the two sleeves together. End of story. Adding a little hem at the top. The other way to do it is by using a pattern called the Katrina Soaker pattern. This is a free pattern you can get online. It's a little bit more involved, a little bit more intensive, but if you feel comfortable with your sewing machine, the benefits are totally worth it. If you're going to use the Katrina pattern, which I personally prefer because I am more comfortable with my sewing machine and I feel like the fit is better, you can use more different styles of wool. You can combine colors and textures and materials of wool to make some really fun pieces. Also, if you're item, if your sweater does shrink up a lot, it gives you a little bit more play with the fabric that you have left over. When just stitching the two arms together like that, a pair that I had that I was showing you in the beginning of this red one, if I was just to stitch these two together and then pull them out, the crotch area, the rise part, would not be tall enough to cover up my son's diaper. If you have a smaller baby and your sleeves shrink up this much, that might not be a problem for you. But again, my son is 15 months old, so I need a bigger soaker that's going to cover his butt better. So I've been using the Katrina style pattern and adding the longies arms to it. So this is very similar. This is what it's going to look like when you're done. Like I said, I love the wristings that turn in these cute little anklets on him. And I'm going to show you what it looks like on the inside. I will be doing an actual sewing tutorial on this probably tomorrow. But this is what it'll look like. You take the pattern and you cut it out, and you'll sew this back portion up, and then take the sleeves and add it to the bottom, and then make a waistband. This is a little bit more complicated. It probably took me about 45 minutes to an hour to make these, but I feel very confident that my son is not going to leak out of them. For this pair, the stripes are 100% merino wool that felted really, really well. They're nice and thick, but it's not very stretchy. Whereas the back part, what I did for the butt, was also 100% merino wool, but it was an Italian merino wool, and it has a really nice stretch to it, so I'm able to kind of stretch it out over the fluffy butt syndrome that he gets with a fully stuffed nighttime diaper. Also, for my daughter, I made her a pair. Also with the Katrina style pattern. For the butt and the top part, I used the body of the sweater from these sleeves, which had two little cute pockets on it in the front, which I ended up using on the butt. And then the stretchy material that I used on the waistband and the butt from this soaker, I used the sleeves to make the legs. And then I used the white waistband from the pair that was big enough for me to just sew the two arms together to make the waistband. So this one has an extra line down the middle here. That's because instead of laying the pattern out on one large backside piece of fabric, I used the two front panels to get the pocket look. So that's why there's this extra seam here down the middle. So this one required me sewing two halves together, then I sewed this side together, then I sewed this side together, then I added the sleeve at the bottom, added another sleeve here, then took a scrap piece of fabric from that first sweater, folded it over and added it to the top, and then I took an old shoelace and threaded it through so that I can get a really nice tight fit on her stomach area. So that's my brief description that only took me 20 minutes to tell you about wool and wool longies. I'm going to do an actual sewing tutorial with my sewing machine and with my new serger that is coming within the next couple of days, so you can see me physically sewing the garments. But that's just a little bit to get you started. If you want to go ahead and head to the thrift store, you've got some information under your belt as to what you're looking for and what you want to get. So go ahead and get your items, get them washed, get them felted, and hopefully within the next couple of days we can get you sewing.